Generation X. In general terms, those born between 1965 and 1980. Latchkey kids. Independent. Existentialism. Modern philosophy focusing on personal experience, human ability, and responsibility in an otherwise meaningless universe. We're the cause. This is the effect. We're the Gen Existentialists. Welcome into the Gen Existentialists. My name is Scot.
And I'm Bunny.
And we'd like to welcome you to this first show. It's going to be a little bit of a culture shock for you because we don't do things like normal podcasts. We'll plan ahead a little bit, but actually a lot of this is up to random chance. And we have Mega Wheel the Magnificent that is going to choose topics for us to talk about. And we're going to talk about them from a, not strictly, but basically a Gen X point of view because we are both of Generation X. Yeah. So basically don't mess with us. We've got shells of armor. We've got all kinds of weapons. Just don't.
But ultimately we just don't care. So
ultimately we just don't care. Most things people say to us, if you're not of Gen X, our eye roll will stop you in your tracks. That's basically all we need. So, shall we spin the wheel, sir?
Yes.
And the wheel is spinning, as you can tell from that noise that you hear. And the wheel, by the way, has so much stuff on it.
But if you want to add anything, feel free to drop us a line. And if you have any great topics or something that you might want to hear about, just let us know.
So our first topic. Mm-hmm. What is your spirit animal and why?
Spirit animal. Do you remember the cartoon Brave Star?
Braves, I do not.
Brave Star was a weird offshoot of the Filmation company, and it was a Native American sheriff on a space, like some sort of outer space planet, but he also had all the all these spirit animals inside of him, like he had the eyes of the hawk and speed of the puma and all this other crazy crap.
So he could kind of pull stuff out like the one Harlem Globetrotter could pull things out.
Well, no, he just kind of spirit appeared over top of him and made a noise, and then he could see things better or whatever. He's like Manimal. Do you remember Manimal?
Vaguely, yeah. Wasn't that a Wasp song?
We call ourselves Gen X. Manimal was a television show in the early 80s that only lasted one season. It was basically the same idea as Brave Star without the diversity. So.
Okay, yeah. I mean, a lot of those early cartoons, like I'm a Tom and Jerry fan, but there are some of the esoteric cartoons that, honest to God, I think you're the only person that ever saw them.
I spent a lot of time in front of the television as an only child, so that was a lot of the Gen X thing. I'll tell you, here's a funny story about spirit animals.
Are spirit animals funny? Can they be funny?
Can they be funny? I don't know. For my 40th birthday, I decided that I wanted to treat myself to something really off the wall. So I contacted a spiritualist who was supposed to read my aura and all the other junk and give me a list of my spirit animals and why they were my spirit animals.
Okay.
And there's one overarching spirit animal. Think of it like a big pyramid scheme.
A Ponzi scheme of spirit animals.
Yeah, which comes to mind here. And
feed your woodchuck.
They go down from the main peak. And I'll give you a quick guess guess what my spirit animal is or was.
Like your peak spirit animal or your foundational spirit animal?
No, my peak spirit animal, which is what
peak spirit animal. I'm going to go carp.
No, you're close though. Oh. It was a seahorse.
Nice.
I paid to find out that my spirit animal is a seahorse. So when I summon this thing, it's just going to fall on the carpet, wriggle around, gasping for air, and then die.
Well, no, it will appear in a sea of spiritual water
is that what
above
it is?
Your head.
Okay.
And it will drip upon you.
Yeah, everybody else has these like, oh, it's a wolf. Oh, it's whatever. Yeah, it was Seahorse was the number one, and then there was a Roadrunner was number 2.
Nice. Nothing wrong with a Roadrunner.
And Ox was number 3.
That's kind of boring.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, so those are my spirit
Well,
animals.
what was the advice that came with that? Like, what are you supposed to do with these spirit animals?
The seahorse apparently is supposed to be the embodiment of this bizarre uniqueness and this fact that, that male seahorses, beehorses, whatever they're called, they can also carry the young. They can get pregnant. They're the ones that get all prego and that. So it's this whole like, oh, you're this, complete being or whatever. And I'm like, I'm sorry.
You're nurturing and tough.
Nurturing and weird looking and pretty much useless in the sea kingdom world. So that was me.
But,
pretty depressing.
Seahorses are cool, though. I mean,
Are
if you're
they?
going to get a sea creature, a seahorse is better than like a sea urchin or a sea
that's
cucumber.
True. I could have just been you're a shell.
Yeah.
You're not even a scallop. You're just the shell.
You're just a piece of stuff.
Yeah, you're sand.
Yeah.
So
sand at the bottom of the ocean.
So yeah, that's the official line as to what my spiritual animal is.
Is a seahorse.
It's a seahorse.
Now, see, I paid to have like a tarot card reading and stuff, and this was years ago. It's like 1999 or so, and it was odd how accurate it was. And the fellow that did it only knew me in passing. We didn't work together per se, but we volunteered at the same place together. And so it was odd how close to reality it was. But something we were talking about at lunch today is actually where the seeds of that came from, was that tarot card reading. Because everything in it kind of came back to the same thing, which is don't cry over spilled milk. Don't worry about the stuff that's gone wrong. Don't focus on that. Focus on the here and now. And that's where expectations are a cage that traps your potential ended up coming from. Don't spend too much time in the past. Learn the lessons. Move forward. Don't have your eyes focused too far out in front of you because you'll forget about the stuff that's important here and now. So, whatever you think about tarot cards and readings and seahorses as spirit animals, sometimes you get good info. Sometimes you get good advice from that kind of thing.
So what is your spirit animal?
It's got to be a cat.
Okay.
I mean, I've never had anybody do a reading, or how did they do the reading? Did they just like pull dice out of a bag and look at a chart?
It had to do with enneagrams and birth dates. And
what?
Enneagrams.
I'm not familiar with that.
It's a whole number, like numerology type reading from your birth date and where I was and longitude and latitude of birth and all this other crazy crap.
If I go to a spiritualist and they pull out a calculator, I'm probably going to be like weirded out.
Yeah, well, this woman sent an exhaustive, 20-page thing about spirit animals. So I'm sure it was probably cut and paste.
Oh. Did you get like a physical copy of the report?
I could print one out. I got a PDF because it was too cheap
Nice.
to buy a physical copy.
That's awesome.
But I
would love to read that and
I saw that
take
and
notes and go back over
geez.
it with you.
I have to see if I can find it still. It's pretty depressing.
Oh, wait a minute. We should do that for a future show.
All right.
We should both go to something like that, and then we'll dissect each other's reports.
That sounds good.
On the show. That would be awesome.
I think we should go to one of those places that does past life regression or past life readings or whatever.
Absolutely.
Because everybody I know is an Indian princess or some goofy crap like that. I'm curious as to what sort of lame boatwright or turnip farmer I used to be in a past life.
Scott, I'm sorry, you were a security guard in multiple lives and you never made it past age 19.
Yeah, I was a seahorse back in the day.
My thing would be that I was oddly somehow drowned in almost all of my past lives, which leads to my fear of water and not being able to swim and that kind of stuff now.
Well,
or at least I'm guessing it would.
So spirit animals, we got a cat and a seahorse.
Which
classy.
In some ways makes perfect sense.
Does it?
Yeah. Should we do another?
Yeah, let's do one more spin.
If we can get onto a really deep topic, it might take the whole show. But in general, we were kind of thinking a spin or two for each venture through the Gen existentialists.
Now, how many questions are currently on the wheel?
A lot.
Last time I looked, it was over 500.
Yeah. But we're looking for more. So if you do have an idea,
yeah,
send it to. Do we have the email set up yet? We will. Kind of deep sighs.
All right.
What do you think the solution is to climate change?
And you want my real answer to that?
Yes, absolutely.
When I was growing up, we had a problem with the ozone layer. And before that, we had a problem with the next ice age coming. And then it was global warming. And then it was global cooling again. Then it was global warming again. And now it's climate change because they got tired of being wrong over and over and over again.
Well, now, wait a minute. With the ozone layer, there were changes made, and we didn't fix it, but we mitigated that to the point where it wasn't as big a problem. So
we fixed it by all the women not having good hair anymore.
That was
is that what it was?
Accelerants, like propellants and stuff, things like that. Yeah, absolutely. So that was kind of a win for humanity. We saw an issue and we were able to do enough to kind of back it off.
Here's my personal opinion on this, and it's not going to be it's as the kids say nowadays, it's a hot take. Hot take is that it's anthropogenic, that this is something that happens on and on and on and off in a planet cycle. I think if it is man-made, which I don't believe it is, if it is man-made, it's too damn late to do anything about it. So in perfect Gen X fashion, I say, hey, just enjoy your time here and write it out if you're so worried about it. But it's funny that all these politicians and celebrities that go on and on about climate change, on and on and on, they all seem to own beachfront property. And they all seem to continue to purchase beachfront property, which if you are concerned about climate change and rising sea levels and all that, it's probably not the right investment. So I always say follow the money and don't sweat the big things. Big things take care of themselves. You got to take care of the little things in life.
See, I haven't seen any big stars' real estate portfolios, so I can't speak to beachfront properties. But you are right about one thing. Climate does cycle. We have historical proof of that. But within the last 100 to 150 years, the impact that we've had through the Industrial Revolution on the environment, on the atmosphere, we were affecting the ozone layer. There was a hole in the ozone layer. We were able to mitigate that.
How did we mitigate that?
It was, and I don't have the stuff in front of me, but there is data that shows that some changes in manufacturing, in the stuff we were using, did help to take care of that. So you look at it, basically a lot of the CO2 and things that we dump into the atmosphere, it becomes a blanket. And it doesn't stop the sun's rays from coming in, but it can keep that heat from escaping. And that's kind of where we're at. We've been putting a sweater on the planet. Mm-hmm. The same thing can happen if there's a cataclysmic volcanic eruption.
Certainly.
So can it happen naturally?
How do you get the eggs back out of the cake once it's baked?
Well, at this point, I think, I hate to say this, but I think it is possibly too late. It's kind of like for me when you look back at early in our generation, well, toward the end of where we were being born, toward the late 70s when we had the oil and gas problems. If some oil and natural gas companies in the United States or anywhere else in the world had looked at that and gone, fossil fuels are going to be a problem, and they knew it was. They knew all this stuff was going to be problematic. They had the scientific data to show what was happening. We know that at this point. If they had gone, or if you're a coal company in eastern Kentucky, we've got all these flat top mountains. What if we start putting solar arrays up there and put wind turbines in between them? We can get on the front foot of the next wave, and we can take all that profit. If there had been some smart business people that had jumped in and said, screw the past, let's take the first leap into the future and lead this stuff, that would have been fantastic. But we missed that. We went into the 80s and we had Reaganomics and we screwed the entire economy and stuff we're still dealing with today. And now we're in the same spot. We're just decades down the road trying to put a bandage on a broken leg.
What a polarizing first episode. This should be interesting because we'll get our fans and our detractors out right away.
Oh, absolutely. But it's good because literally our viewpoints on this are kind of not polar opposites, but
yeah, they're divisive enough. Yeah, that I'm all for the idea of solar. I'm all for the idea of wind, but I have to ask once again, how do you run the equipment you need to build these things on solar panels? Like, how many earth excavators are run on solar panels? How many large drilling platforms are run on solar panels? How many manufacturing companies are run on solar panels? Not many. So
we're not going to abate that issue, but we can mitigate it.
That's what I mean. I think there's room for both types of energy while it makes sense.
And that's the whole thing, is making sense of what you use where. It's kind of like, and for anybody that doesn't know me, I'm a safety professional by trade. I'm also a musician, poet, but how do I make money? I'm a safety professional. So when I use words like mitigate and abate is to take a hazard or a problem and get rid of it, just to fix it. Mitigating, you're putting bandages on it. You're making it less severe, basically. So yeah, are we always going to need some diesel-powered farm equipment? Some diesel-powered drilling equipment? Yeah, probably. But if we can take the stuff where we don't need to use fossil fuels and turn that to a different type of energy, if we can take the things that can be different and make them different and do it smartly and do it logically, then we can have a deep impact on all this.
I think the logic has to come in, though, where people need to realize that's an evolutionary step forward. That's not something you can do in the next 10 to 20 years.
No.
This is, I mean, how long did it take the Industrial Revolution to get to where we are today?
Yeah.
You can count those years.
Yeah.
I think the whole idea of forcing people into situations, I just saw an interview this morning with a gentleman from BlackRock who went on and on and on about their new company policy is to force change on people. And if people aren't interested in this changing with the times, then their profit margins will be lessened. That seems to be the idea of lots of people on this planet right now. A lot of people that are in power feel like they need to force change for whatever reason. And it's not enforced equally across the board. What's enforced in the Netherlands is not enforced in China. What's enforced in India is not enforced in the United States.
So are you an advocate of a new world order per se?
No, I'm an advocate in directing people in the right directions.
Cooperatively.
Giving them reasons to go in the right directions. And if there is something that is negatively impacting people, communities, the world, then there needs to be equal punishment as well on that, not looking aside because of fill-in-the-blank reasons, because we're also making money off of you. I'm looking at you, China. I'm calling you out.
China and some others. And you know what? We can make change. We can mandate change. And I can think of one example right off the top of my head where change wasn't, well, two, actually, where not everybody wanted to change. Not everybody saw a need for change, but things were changed literally by law. First one, television. It's all digital now. You know, that was a legal thing. That was law suddenly. And the second one is light bulbs. When was the last time you saw an iridescent light bulb? Because you can't anymore. So we can mandate change. Now, some would say for both of those that it was industry that drove that, because industry wanted it because of the money making behind it.
That's my that's my suggestion to everybody out there is whenever you see change, be it for benevolence or for malevolence, always follow the money. I guarantee you the main reasons people changed light bulbs were for the money. Not so much for the benevolence of the world, it's going to make things better. No, people made backroom deals. They shook hands. Certain companies got very good kickbacks for doing these things and running out their competition. That's why when you go on eBay right now, you can sell a pack of iridescent light bulbs for a ludicrous amount of money because some people out there still want them for some reason, which is fine. You know, it's a market demands what it demands.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Like, I don't get it because when we moved into this house 9 years ago, we replaced all the light bulbs with either LEDs or compact fluorescents. We haven't changed a light bulb. We just haven't.
I must have had really bad luck with LEDs because they're always blowing out at our place. So,
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, literally, the light bulbs in the studio here were put in within the first week that we moved into this house.
Wow.
Never changed.
And how many years ago was that?
That was 9 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Impressive.
Well, that's it for the first episode of the Gen Existentialist. We want to thank everybody for joining us, and we will catch you next time. My name is Scott.
I'm Bunny.
Have a good one.